And once again, earlier this week, the Fed announced another, it's not quantitative easing exactly, but it is essentially another program that is designated to boost the stock market.
Yeah, I'm in this bitch terror. Got a head full of stacks, better grab an umbrella. I make it right, I make it right.
I get that you didn't want the stock market to crash. I get the Federal Reserve didn't want that. They think they're helping the economy by doing this, but I think they're prolonging a lot of problems. At this point in time, they're really going overboard. It's teetering upon socialism. What I kind of feel like is happening is they're not even letting the market correct. They're not even letting it correct 10%. The tape was starting to turn negative, especially after a sell-off like last week. You'll have a lot of people who were questioning whether to take profits or not, but before they even could, the Fed announced that it will be directly buying corporate bonds. And the stock market basically had no reason to go back down again. I feel like what's happening right now is just a completely rigged market. Anytime it has even an opportunity to drop, there's some news of some new programs, bond buying program, quantitative easing program, monetary printing program that's occurring. So what is this honestly really accomplishing? You're printing money, you're purchasing assets. Who is this really helping? This isn't capitalism. You're allowing rich people who could not keep 3 to 4 months worth of burn rate for their businesses in a bank account to basically get access to money, keep their asset prices high, allow them to stay rich, rather than have their businesses fall apart, which is what capitalism says. Obviously, I can't buy an airline, but maybe I can pull together 100 other investors and we can buy a broken apart airline together. This bailout, this money printing, isn't really solving anything. You're letting the same bad players who didn't keep any money saved aside for a rainy day to still be bad players. This is no longer capitalism. This is socialism. And that's a huge problem. There are major consequences to socialism. If you backtrack this or backtest this with history, this has never happened. There's an ongoing joke. We don't have the best economy, but what we do have are the best printers in the world. We're printing America great again. And this is all the fault of Jerome Powell.
I make it right, I make it right, I make it right on them hoes.
Jerome Powell, fuck you. This is kind of a problem right now because every time the market wants to go down, there's either some phony announcement of Moderna, and I think that's honestly something that's set up by the government, that anytime the market drops, make some false claim about a vaccine. Or anytime the market starts to taper off, the buying pressure winds down, have Jerome Powell come make a call, make an announcement that he's going to buy more corporate bonds, going to go through quantitative easing infinity. 6.6 million jobs were lost before that announcement came out. I was awake that day, waiting for that announcement to see how much jobless claims. That number was astonishing, but 5 minutes before that number was released, it was released that the Federal Reserve was doing unlimited QE. Unlimited QE. I mean, them printers be going all night. Honestly, I understood the $700 billion bailout that occurred in 2008 during the financial crisis. Think about how small that number is. Now think about the number 5 trillion.
It's just the one fella who got dumb cheddar in need of brain surgeons. Got me a designated thrower cause my hands hurt. I make it rain.
That's insane as a proportion of our GDP. You're gonna eventually force the demise of the US dollar if this keeps going. If anything happens to that currency, we're doomed.
Doomed!
Our livelihood is based on the fact that all international trade for the most part is done in USD. If there is another rival currency that comes up, there isn't one competent one yet, but there could be a time and place where people are freaking out about the US debt US debt ratings, and they basically won't do international trade as much with the dollar. They might decide that it's worth diversifying into other currencies along with the dollar. Our cost of living will actually go higher. Government debt will be more expensive to service. And Jerome Powell can't go crazy with the printers. I want to quickly talk a little bit more about historically with the stock market, how the Federal Reserve intervention affects prices. This rally right here, we were at S&P 2875 back in October, and we shot up to, S&P 3400. 2800 was already pretty well priced. It wasn't cheap to buy the market at that point in time. So what was the cause of this rally right here? Well, kind of the Federal Reserve magic. Federal Reserve had another quantitative easing program right here.
I throw up more cash and change the forecast.
Whenever you have programs like this where they're buying government-backed assets, a lot of people have nowhere else to put their money but into stocks, and you have a very consistent rally in stocks. Fed unveils plan to expand balance sheet but insists it's not QE. Whenever there is an expansion in monetary supply, you'll typically see an expansion in the price of the stock market. I was basically out of the S&P around here, and look at this move right here. The reason I was skeptical was because I thought without people going out there spending, no matter what the government would print, it wasn't enough to increase the monetary supply. That was my theory. I was probably short right around here. I thought this doji candle right here would be the symbol of the market being a good time to short the market. It wasn't. It once again kind of really shows you that this is one of the most important factors of asset prices, is what the Federal Reserve does. It kind of shows you it's a rigged game.
Your boyfriend is lame, I make it rain on ya. He never make it rain, like Southern California. Where's your umbrella? Now get your raincoat. Baby, I make it flood. Now you gon' need a boat.
Should the S&P be here right now with everything going on? I don't think so. At the same time, are you gonna fight $5 trillion floating into the market? This is a size that I've never seen before. I think you have to be stupid to do it in size. I'm just keeping my positions really small. This is what I'm forced to do. Basically weave in and out of these positions at this point in time because I don't know which way the market's gonna go. Take a look at 2018, around September, and look how much it fell. It dropped like a rock. What caused this drop? It was the Fed raising interest rates, curbing its purchasing of assets, things like that. And immediately there was political pressure put on them to basically cancel unwinding their QE program or raising their interest rates. So a lot of political pressure on them. They cracked and the market just shoots right back up. There was a time in Japan throughout the 80s where there was this massive boom cycle. This was fueled by low interest rates, basically a bunch of people speculating on real estate, assets, stocks, whatever. So you can see this massive spike in prices of stock. Look at this. This is the Nikkei. Fully knowing that this was essentially unsustainable, what the finance ministry had done was try to curb interest rates a little bit. Just curbing that a little bit resulted in this massive crash. They thought they could slowly decrease the price or maybe just level the price and let the reality of the economy kind of catch up to the price of the bubble. But no, this bubble burst, and when it burst, it just dropped like a rock. And you can see this is in the 90s, January 1st, 90. And if you take a look at the price now, almost 30 years later, it hasn't recovered. Now, obviously, the names in probably the Nikkei 225 is not a fair, accurate comparison. This is not that in-depth of a video about the topic, but you guys can see that after a certain amount of time, jerry-rigging stops working. Japan still jerry-rigs probably way more than the US to this date. The Japanese central bank outright buys ETFs that own stocks and things like that. They do even more quantitative easing than the US. But after a certain point, the market itself, it's not enough for one bank to buy all the assets. Other people have to start buying too. It's supposed to motivate animal spirits. And for that reason, it looks like Japan never really caught back on. My goal is not here to predict. My goal is to make money. We could be right here for all I know, like right here in the bubble. And if I was shorting right now, I would be in a world of hurt, as prices could still double from here. I don't know where the stock market's going to be. All I do know is you can manipulate the market only for so long before the market decides itself that these assets are not worth the paper backing them. Anyway, no video would be complete without me talking about my trades. I want to quickly just go to the webcam and kind of show you guys what I've traded this past week. It's the same few things. S&P mini futures, Dow mini futures, and some micro futures thrown in. I shorted the market using SPY, but also I bought protective puts against the SPY just in case the market has run away. I mean, it was a pretty good week, but like I said, I'm scalping and I don't want to be scalping. I thought the age of scalping, I was done with that 4 or 5 years ago. Scalping is basically working. It's hard work. It's stressful work. I don't want to do stressful work anymore. So let's go through my trade history. 339 orders. You guys can see this was on Friday. And look how many orders I have on basically the same thing. This is just the 19th. And 19th, I decided I was going to take it easy that day. I already just closed out a futures contract today. It is pretty crazy, you guys, that I'm kind of forced to trade a lot and a lot more frequently and not keep too much risk on any one direction, one size. I've never had to trade so much on a Sunday night. I never had to trade so much after hours and things like that. And futures are a great tool to do that with. They give you a lot of exposure very quickly to whatever direction you want. So they work really well for scalping. In my case, mostly focus on, I bought Wells Fargo here like a donkey. I'm already down money. After the regular stock market closed, the futures kept going down and down. I finally got rid of that position. There's a lot of bad news out there, and it's kind of crazy for me to actually cover my shorts when so much bad news is out there. But there's just so much government intervention right now that I feel like maybe at some point later on, I'll be able to short back in at a better price. I might even buy back in a little bit into the market. I don't know. I'll leave it at that for now. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Just want all of the money. 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 I just want